sorry, I forgot to put myself in the room. Oh, and I've left this terrible light on. Hang on a second. Right, there we are, everybody. Hello. Right, so sorry, I have a weird LED light in my office, and it creates some weird flashing when I do video streaming. I don't know why, but tomorrow I'm going for a visit to the local hardware store. I suppose I would say to you in America, if you're in the UK, that would be a DIY store, and I'm going to buy a new light. So there we go. Right. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry again, you've got that awful reflection, but if I do that, then I'm blind. So leave these on. Happy Monday. It is indeed Monday. So as you can see, look, can you see all of this stuff? I have some lovely, it's not soundproofing, it's sound absorbing stuff, because you know I am always moaning about the echo in this room. So my wonderful husband has put this stuff up for me. I have some more over there and I have some more over there. And I think the sound is a lot better. The only problem is we put them up today and it's got that spray on glue. You know, look, this stuff. And I'm actually quite high. I opened the windows before this, and that's why I've got this big thermal jumper on. You can see this isn't my usual jumper, but it's too cold in here now. But I am literally sitting here getting high on the smell of glue. So if I start giggling at any point, don't worry. If I pass out at any point, hopefully my husband's watching and he'll just come and pick me up and carry me out. So, you know, just bear that in mind. Right. With that said then, we've got lots of people appearing, so this is exciting. Hello. If I rub my hands a lot as well, I'm very cold, sorry. So, right, so I'm going to say a few hellos to people whilst we wait for them to arrive, and then we will kick off our Monday excitement. So who do we have? We've got Jonathan York's back. Hello, Jonathan. How are you doing? Lovely to see you back. Amur, I'm going to go for. If I've said that wrong, I do apologize. We've got Jocelyn from New Jersey. Very nice. I probably say this all the time, but one of my brothers used to live in New Jersey. We've got Shivani from Boston. Very cool. Oh, we've got Nirmal from Bangalore. It's pretty late in Bangalore, right? It's got to be 10:30 in the evening there. So, thank you for staying up so late to hang out with me. We've got, Snohomet. So, Kim. Oh, I thought you were in Florida, Kim, for some reason. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, hey, Kim, how's it going? Did you have a good weekend with your kids? I hope you had a nice time. Oh, the audio quality is fantastic. Yes. Thank you. It has only taken me 1.5 years to get to this point. Audio has been my biggest bane when it comes to YouTube. I'm so happy. It's 11:03. Gosh, you're even further ahead than I thought, Nirmal. Well, thank you so much for staying up late to hang out. That's so sweet. Okay, and we've got Cray from Colorado. Oh, I went to Colorado for all of 10 minutes back in 1989. I flew through the airport. I stopped in the airport, jumped on a different plane, and off I went to Denver. That's where I was. Matthew from Savannah. Nice. Right. Okay. So let me just get going then, because it feels like we've got a good group who have arrived. Hola, Danielle from Barcelona. How are you doing? Buenas noches. That's about the extent of my Spanish. I do apologize. Allentown, PA. Talon, where's PA? Is it Pennsylvania? Is that right? I'm sorry, I'm British. I get most of the American states, but sometimes I don't quite get it right. So please tell me if I'm wrong. Oh, and we've got Ola back again from Nigeria. Welcome back. Lovely to see you again. Should we just get going? Okay, so my intro. So I'm Gigi, and I was a senior leader and bar raiser at Amazon for a number of years. The difference, I'd got Pennsylvania right. It all kicked off in Pennsylvania a while ago. I guess that's why I know what that stands for. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got a cold as well, which isn't too nice. So let me just wipe my nose so that you don't have to look at me. Very sorry. Okay. I'm Gigi. I'm an ex-senior leader and bar raiser at Amazon. I now have my own Amazon interview preparation kind of ecosystem, I would say, going on. Slight difference between me, not slight difference, major difference between me and a bunch of the other Amazon interview coaches that you'll find here on YouTube is that I was a bar raiser. And the key difference is, if you are just a kind of standard hiring manager or interviewer at Amazon, you'll really only interview people and be part of the process that is focused on your particular team or maybe some adjacent teams to you. So pretty much focused on your skill set. If you are, for example, a recruiter, you'll only be hiring for certain job types. And again, you'll really only be exposed to the job types that you hire for. Bar raisers, you get everything. You're able to interview across all different job families. You're able to interview across tech and non-tech. You're able to interview in different countries of the globe versus the one that you're in. So I got to have the most enormous exposure to all sorts of different Amazon interview processes. And to be very clear, there are many different processes. There's no one unique Amazon process that every single team uses. Huge amounts of variation. And as a bar raiser, you get exposed to that variation in a way that somebody else who wasn't a bar raiser wouldn't. When I was a bar raiser, I could tell the people who had expert coaching versus those that didn't. They did better, number one, but they knew what to say. They knew how to say it. They clearly understood the leadership principles. They knew the mistakes to avoid, etc. And being a good Amazonian as I was, I got a bit curious and I started looking into how much it costs to have that type of preparation. And when I did that a couple of years ago now, it was pretty expensive. You know, there were some key players here on YouTube and you could be paying easily a number of hundreds of dollars, if not into the thousands of dollars for their support. And I felt that was a little bit unfair. So whilst I was still at Amazon, I started my YouTube channel. Since leaving Amazon, I have branched out a bit. I have my own interview preparation academy, which is very much focused on digital courses to make it as affordable as possible for everybody and anybody to get my expertise. I do one-to-one coaching. I have my YouTube channel here. You may know I'm also very active on LinkedIn. I'm also on TikTok. I'm also on Twitter. And through that, I just try and reach as many people as possible with my content. Part of what I do is clearly these free sessions. So the way this is going to work is you can ask me questions down the side here. I will attempt to answer them. Pretty much my hit rate is I'd say about 95% of questions I can answer. Please don't ask me very generic questions. Hi, Gigi, I've got an interview tomorrow. Any tips? Sure. 30 hours worth of tips on my YouTube channel. So please don't ask those generic questions. Equally, sometimes people ask me really very, very specific questions about their job family and exactly what they can expect to interview. As much as I've had a broad experience, there are thousands of job families in Amazon and no one person can know them all. So sometimes I'm afraid I'll have to tell you, I can't help. But those examples are rare. So you pop it in there, I will pick them out and start answering the question. Please do stay until the end. At the end of this session, I give away what I am very convinced is possibly the best Amazon interview freebie there is out there on the market. Stand by that. So hang on until the end and I will be able to give that to you. I think that is everything that I wanted to tell you. So why don't we just get going? As I go through, I will say hello to people along the way. People kind of mosey in and mosey out as it suits them. So I'll try and make this a little bit informal and say hi to people as they come along. I think that's it. So why don't we just get going? Okay, so I'm definitely getting high. I'm definitely getting high. And it's very bright, actually. I'm just going to change down the light for a second. Hang on a bit. Is that better? Still a little bit bright, but could be worse, I suppose. Okay, so let's start scrolling and see what we come across. Oh, Wilma's here. Hello, Wilma. Very nice to meet you. Oh, South Africa are in the house. Excellent. And Luca from Italy. Buongiorno. Okay. Oh, okay. So quickly, we're going to just say, well done then. Amma, you wanted to thank you passed your behavioral questions. Oh, and using my content. Okay. So, it looks like you've made it through a screening and now you're on to the next step. Cool. Fingers crossed. Keep going. More of the same will get you through, hopefully. Congrats. Keep going. Keep going. All right, so there's not a lot of questions here, people. So honestly, just throw your questions in. There is no silly questions as far as I'm concerned. So let's see what we've got. Okay, yep, I'm going to cover this question for Matthew. Hello, Matthew. So you have your second phone screen tomorrow with the hiring manager for an LP manager role. I don't know what an LP manager is. My videos have gotten you through 2 phone screens. Whoop, whoop. Any insight for LP manager interview as well? Aside from the fact that I don't know what an LP manager is. So do be careful with your acronyms as well, people. Don't assume that everybody knows what every acronym is. They won't. So bear that in mind for your interview. So aside from not knowing what an LP manager is, even if I did know what an LP manager, loss prevention manager. Okay, thank you. Actually, I've done bar raising on quite a few LP loops. So here's the thing when it comes to the leadership principles. Different roles, even within the same job family, have different leadership principles that are more important to them. And that's because the different teams are going to be in different levels of nascency. There's going to be different requirements from the hiring manager. So I'm not going to sit here and quote to you what I think the key LPs are for your role because I haven't seen your job description. So here is my tip for you, Matthew. Speak to your recruiter and see, or email them, whatever, and see if they will give you some indicators on what the key LPs are for your role. Second thing you should do is go back to my channel and go to the playlist, which is called the job description review. I did 2 sessions. Maybe I should do another one. I'll think about it, actually. Maybe I'll do another one in the next couple of weeks. I've done a couple of sessions where live people just give me their job descriptions and I work through them and show you how you can look at the language of a job description and connect it to a leadership principle. So please go check out that video. Take your job description and go through it line by line by line and see if you can identify language that connects to the leadership principles. I do a service. I've done it again. If any of you have seen any of these before, I say this do thing regularly. And every time I say it, it amuses me. And you'd have thought I'd have gotten over it by now, but I just haven't. I'm so puerile. I'm really sorry. I do a service, which is a job description review deep dive, which you can pay me to do. But what I do when I go through that kind of service is I go through people's job descriptions line by line by line. And every time I see a reference to a leadership principle, I mark it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then by the end of it, I count up all of the references that I've seen to each leadership principle, and then I sort them and stack rank them so I can see how many times each leadership principle seems to be mentioned in the job description. And that broadly suggests to me that that is the order of priority. Now, it's not an exact science because, of course, every hiring manager has a slightly different way of articulating things, etc. But certainly over the course of time, it's proven to be quite successfully indicative of the leadership principles that my candidates can expect and have actually got. So that's my tip for you, Matthew. Go and check that out. Okay, thank you very much for the question. I'm going to move on. Okay, yeah. Hi, Talon. So how much or how should you prepare for a system design question for a senior TPM role? You've got 20 years of IT experience. Okay. You know and understand the concepts and have spent half of your career in every kind of infra project ever, but you're not a big coder. You don't need to be a coder when it comes to a senior TPM role. They do all have to do the systems design piece, but it's less about the code and more about, as I understand it, the actual kind of architectural design of the system. So I wouldn't worry too much about the coding. You might want to do a bit of refreshment on kind of systems design. And I do have a course, not my course, by the way. There's a course that many of my candidates who have done this work have recommended to me, those people that have been successful. So if you're interested in what that course is, just drop a comment into one of my videos on YouTube and I'll comment back on the course. But you might just want to do a little bit of brushing up. But if you're as experienced as you are, then, you know, probably don't have to do too much kind of prep / refresher. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Let's move on. So, Marcello, what are you going to ask me? Okay. Oh, Oh, okay. Hey, Marcello. So you've got a loop next week. One of the interviews is an hour and a half long, and all of the others will be an hour. Any idea what that could be? So I'm going to assume that you have in this hour and a half long session some kind of functional skill assessment. Now, you haven't told me what role you're applying for, but there's no way a 1.5 hour session was just going to be behavioral questions. So, Marcello, go back to your recruiter and ask your recruiter what you've just asked me is exactly what can you expect in that 1.5 hour session. I suspect it's a mixture of behavioral and functional kind of testing, but exactly what functional testing will depend on the role that you're applying for. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Okay, Jocelyn, hello, welcome back. I do remember you, I believe, from last week. So you had your first phone screen on Friday, yeah, with a team member in Italy. Should you expect another phone screen with a hiring manager, or will you meet them at Loop? To my point earlier, when I started this whole session with my intro, it's impossible for me to know exactly what you can expect in your role because many teams do, or all teams do it differently. There are, so far, I've mapped about 13 different ways to make it through the Amazon interview process. So I cannot tell you exactly what your next step would be. I would expect you to meet your hiring manager before Loop, usually. So if you haven't had the hiring manager at phone screen 1, you may find that you have a phone screen 2 with the hiring manager, and then on to Loop where you'd see the hiring manager again. But Jocelyn, there are no guarantees. There are some interesting processes happening. I did a coaching session 2 days ago with someone who just went straight to Loop. No phone screen, no online assessment, just straight to Loop. Never heard of that before. So impossible for me to say, Jocelyn. Speak to the recruiter. I mean, obviously you need to find out whether you've made it past phone screen 1. You don't mention here whether you have or not, but then check with your recruiter. Okay, going to move on. So for everyone that has just joined, welcome. Thank you for joining. And you can see I have some new soundboarding that I've put into my office, which has taken me about a year and a half to get round to. So although I believe the sound quality is much better, I'm happily sitting here getting high because we only put them up today. So I can actually feel the headache behind my eyes starting. So apologies if I start giggling maniacally rather shortly. Okay. Oh, Dustin, hello. How are you doing? From Alaska. Very cool. Well, very cool, yeah. See, it's starting already. You are more than welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, Matthew, how much is my job description deep dive? It's only $50. So if you are interested in my job description deep dive, I think there's a link to it in the description of almost all of my videos. Not this one because I haven't chaptered this one yet. But if you go back to any of my other videos, you should be able to find the link to the job description review in there. So go check that out. Okay. Okay. Zishan, hello, welcome. I like your little Z there. That's very cool, very artistic. So you want to know what can be the different types of probing questions that an interviewer can ask after you give an answer. Anything. Because the whole point of the probing questions is to dig deeper into understanding your behaviors as regards the leadership principles. So there are some kind of basic questions that Amazonians are taught to consider in their follow-up questions that they get taught in the Making Great Hiring Decisions training. And I do cover some of that off in my own course, my interview preparation masterclass. But broadly speaking, I'd say 80% of the time, those are not the ones that get asked anyway, because the purpose of asking follow-ups is based on trying to get more data from the candidate. So having stock follow-up answers doesn't make a lot of sense. You have to be following up based on what the candidate has actually said to you. So if you want to try and anticipate what type of follow-up questions you might get based on your stories, I would suggest you do 2 things. The first thing is look at your stories and try and step out of your own shoes as the candidate and step into the interviewer's shoes and ask yourself, if I was interviewing me, what other questions might I have based on the story that I'm about to give the interviewer? What areas did I skip over that maybe the interviewer might be interested in? So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is actually give your stories to somebody else and ask them, what questions would you ask me? If you were trying to understand my ability to earn trust with somebody, and obviously you have to explain to them what earn trust is all about, right? But if you were trying to understand my ability to earn trust with somebody, what other questions might you ask me if you heard this story? And then think about what answers you would give to that question, that follow-up question. And if it actually seems like a really sensible follow-up question that you wish you'd put information into your example about, put the information in your example. And if you think it's kind of edge, just have an answer and kind of keep it in your back pocket. Okay, so hopefully that is helpful. Okay. Okay. So you were asked your opinion on what or why it is important for the UK and US to outsource from third world countries. Your fear is you won't be able to have their side of the story to balance your arguments. So you were asked, or you are prepping to be asked. I'm not quite clear on that. So I can't answer this question for you. I think we could probably write a 2-page doc on the pros and cons of outsourcing to third world countries. I think the point is, there are going to be questions that you're asked about your own particular technical space. You can only do your best to prepare them. But if in the reality is that you don't feel you can answer the question in the moment, you're just going to have to admit it and say, look, at this point, I don't think I have sufficient information to be able to give you a strong answer to that. But if I was to go and try and gather that information, these are the sources that I would go to in order to be able to come up with a recommendation / a balanced argument. I think that's always the best way of approaching a question that you can't answer. Don't blag it. Amazon interviewers will not accept blaggy, fluffy type examples, and they'll start pushing you. And if they start pushing you and you can't answer, you'll start getting jittery and the whole thing will just end up an ever decreasing circle. So if you really don't feel you can adequately answer the question, don't answer how you would go about trying to answer the question. I hope that helps. Okay. Hey, Kim. So yes, you finished your loops and you were referred to for another position. Yes, I think I know that. Do you go and find other positions or wait for them to reach out to me? And how many positions apply for? Yeah, just own your own process, Kim. This is what I say to everybody. As much as some recruiters will try and help you, the truth is if you are not a candidate for their role, then they're not going to put their resources into finding you a job. They are targeted on filling their own roles, not filling any role in Amazon. So Kim, be proactive, look for roles that you're interested in, apply to them directly. If you have got a recruiter who is kind of hardworking and not that they're not all hardworking, that came out wrong. If you have a recruiter who's very engaged in your cause, it's always worth letting them know which of the roles that you have applied for so that they can maybe speak to the appropriate recruiter or hiring manager and put a word in for you. But always own your own process, Kim. Don't leave it up to anybody else because nobody cares as much about you finding a job as you do, with the exception of me. Because you know I love you. All right. I hope that helps, Kim. Moving on then. Woo, still getting high. Okay. Okay. Please don't ask me for general tips. It's not going to happen. Yeah, okay. How you doing? So you're applying for an SDE role. Okay, so I'm assuming SDE 1 because you're saying you've only got 1 year of experience. If you have no examples for a leadership principle, what can you do? All right, so yeah, very common SDE 1s. It's tricky. You won't get asked as many leadership principle questions as, for example, an L6 program manager would do. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better. What I usually hear from software development managers is that you really want to have, as an SDE, maybe 6 odd stories that you can go into the interview with. You can absolutely use your work experience. You can go back to school, college, whatever terminology you use for that particular point in your tertiary education. You can go back and use examples from there as well. If you really do get to a point where you really don't think you have a decent example, just to my point earlier, be honest. Tell your interviewer, I'm really sorry, I don't have a good example for that question. In order to make the most of my opportunity and respect your time, I think I'd rather have another question, please. So you can definitely ask for other questions. You don't want to do it too many times, but a couple of times, particular SDE 1 level, will be absolutely fine. I hope that helps. Okay. Hello, FB Kazmi. So you've got a loop tomorrow, 5 people, in stock manager. Should you expect a practical? No, I don't think so. I've done bar raising on quite a number of in stock manager loops, and I have not seen a practical ever happen in one of those. So again, when's your loop? Oh, it's tomorrow. So if you haven't heard by now from your recruiter that you're going to have a practical element, I think you're safe to assume that you won't. Worst case scenario, they might give you a spreadsheet to do something with. But if you're an experienced in-stock manager, I would expect that to be relatively simple, that you could just do on the fly. But certainly I didn't see any practicals in any of the in-stock manager bar raisers loops that I ran. Okay. Moving on. Oh, hi, James. James William. Hello. Yeah. Cool. Hey, Dustin. So, oh, you're lucky. Your recruiter gave you 7 LPs. Right. Okay. So to those of, who was I talking to earlier about the leadership principles? Oh, I can't remember now. Matthew, that was it, Matthew. So Dustin's obviously followed my advice and spoken to his recruiter, and he has a nice recruiter who, they're all lovely, of course, who's given him the key leadership principles for his role, and there are 7. So Dustin, I think if your recruiter has bothered to focus on giving you the 7, you can probably safely bet that those are the only 7 that you need to do. So my tip would be get your very, very best examples for those 7. And then for the remaining 9, I would probably see if, well, you can probably get rid of frugality. Ignore that. You can probably get rid of strive to be Earth's best employer, unless you are a team leader in AWS, because they seem to like that one. You can definitely get rid of success and scale bring board responsibility. So you can get rid of those 3. So we've whittled you down a few more. For the remaining ones, I always think it's worth having a backup plan. Me, I'm a cynic and I like to over prepare. So I would say to you, of the examples that you've come up with for your 7, try and think of a way where if you were asked about another leadership principle, you might be able to reshape the examples that you've created for those 7 for the other leadership principles. And then that way you don't have to create a whole new set of examples to cover leadership principles that you may never be asked. But at the same time, you have a backup plan just in case you're asked something, because I personally would never go into an interview with any level of kind of gap in my preparation, just in case. So I hope that helps, Dustin, and good luck. Okay. Yeah, okay. Hey, Patrick, you're doing a phone interview for transparency team lead. Cool. Yeah, I did. I think I've got some one-to-one coaching coming up for someone who's doing a transparency role in Japan. That's it. Yeah. So yeah, Japan. Cool. Okay. What's the difference between phone and loop besides format? There's no difference between phone and loop. And even sometimes there's no difference in format, depending on how your team chooses to run their phone screen and their loop. So nothing. I mean, these days, I think the majority of phone screens, people are just using audio rather than using video. Makes no sense to me. It's all done over chime. I have no idea why this is a thing, but apparently it's a thing. And then format-wise, there will be slightly different questions between, or could be slightly different types of questions and questions between phone screen and loop, but otherwise it's exactly the same. It doesn't deviate very much. So I hope that helps. Oh, a man from South 128 is here today again. Hello, it's nice to see you back. Thank you for joining. Okay. Oh, Danny, how you doing, Danny? So Danny wins the prize today. Whoop, whoop. Because Danny asked the question that I always love people to ask, because if you've been here before, you know I do like to enjoy getting on my soapbox. So Danny, you did it, right? Ding, ding, ding. I'm getting on my soapbox now. I hope we're all ready. Okay, so here we go. Danny would like to know, is the interview with the bar raiser more challenging than the others? My answer, Danny, no, it is not. No, it is not. So the bar raiser interview is exactly the same as any other interview that you'll get with any other interviewer. There are no specific leadership principles that a bar raiser is assigned. There are no specific questions that are reserved for bar raisers. There is no particular thing that bar raisers are looking for in your answer that every single one of your other interviewers is not looking for. Sometimes candidates will feel that their bar raiser interview is more challenging because bar raisers tend to be more experienced interviewers. And by nature of being more experienced interviewers, they're more confident, they have more experience, and therefore they're not more challenging, but they certainly work harder as interviewers to pull the information out of you than maybe the less experienced interviewers. However, there are very, very many interviewers that are extremely experienced in Amazon that are not bar raisers. So being a bar raiser is not causal to being to having a I don't want to call it tougher or more challenging interview because that's not quite the right language. I'm not even sure what it is. But being a bar raiser is not causal. Of that is a correlating relationship, because the actual causality is just the amount of experience an interviewer has. And the reason why I say get on my soapbox and all of these things out here is I know there's a whole bunch of products out there or coaches out there who are selling people products based on they have the magic formula for how you make it past the bar raiser round, because of course that's a big anxiety for people, understand it, and they leverage that anxiety in order to make money. It's a lie. It isn't true. There's nothing that they can teach you about bar raisers that wouldn't be relevant to all other interviewers, and there's nothing that they teach you about all other interviewers that is not relevant to bar raisers. So please don't pay someone because they promised to get you through the bar raiser round because they are selling you snake oil. Okay, I hope that helps. Oh, and I always end that bit as well if you play any of my videos back. If, however, you find there is somebody out there that promises you something special to teach you when it comes to the bar raiser round, please do feel free to tell them that Gigi says that's a snake oil promise and they should come and talk to me and at least help me understand what they know that I don't know, because I was a bar raiser, I was trained by bar raisers, and I trained bar raisers myself. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Danny, I'm sorry you got that. You were the victim this week. Okay. Moving on then. Okie dokie. Hey, so Chandana, so you completed your OA on February the 20th. Where are we now? Okay, 28th. And you didn't receive any feedback. How long did it take Amazon to send it? There is no stock answer to this. As much as there's no 100% unique process, there's also no 100% kind of timeline that everybody works to on the other side of the fence. It's basically dependent on the workload that your recruiter has or your RC has. So I can't answer that question other than to say, please do just take ownership of your process in the way I mentioned to Kim, taking ownership of hers. Contact the person back, email back to the mailbox that you have, and just ask them if they can give you an update, please. Oakley dokley, moving on. I love it when people ask me this. So you've got your loop tomorrow. Can I tell you what the response should be for, can I tell you about a time when you had a tough or difficult decision? Well, no, I can't tell you what the response would be because it's all about your career experience, right? So you need to go back to a time in your career where you had a tough and difficult decision. I'm not sure that is even a question, to be fair. I don't think anyone is going to ask you a question about a time where you had a difficult decision. They might ask you a question for, tell me about a time where you had to make a decision and you had to do it with very little notice, or tell me about a time where you had to make a decision and you just had to make a judgment because there was no data available, or tell me about a time where you had to make a decision and you had to choose between moving forward taking action or gathering more data. So even that question itself is far too high level for me to be able to answer. But even if I had, which of those specific questions you're asking me about, I can't tell you what the answer is. The answer is dependent on the example from your career history. So find an example from your career history and think about all of the variables that you considered before you made that decision. Hope that helps. Moving on then. This is a good question, Iram. I get this question occasionally. Maybe I should make a video about this. Okay. Is it really important to answer behavioral questions related to the job description or any experience not related to the job role? Will it work? Good question. So in theory, it can be any role, because what they're looking for is the behaviors against the leadership principles. And those behaviors are completely skill set agnostic, really. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the leadership principles that apply to thousands of different job families across the whole organization. However, that's the theory. In practice, it's much easier for a hiring manager and the team to be able to, number one, understand really the bar at which you're operating in for those leadership principles if you do it in the context of the type of work that they do, because they are effectively cross-referencing people that do that type of work that they are surrounded with above, at, and below the level that you are applying for within that skill set. So it becomes much easier to reference the type of behaviors that you are articulating to the type of behaviors that they see every single day if they're set within the same skill set context. It's not the end of the world if you don't do that. And sometimes that just doesn't work because people are doing career pivots, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can come up with examples, or as many examples as you can, that reflect the job description, you will certainly be doing yourself a service. But it's not an absolute prerequisite. If you don't, you'll fail. No, that wouldn't be the case. I hope that helps. Right, moving on then. Okay. Yeah. Stephanie, hello. Oh, and it's from marketing manager. Marketing, best skill set on the planet. I'm a marketer. Right. So you are marketing manager. So I'm assuming L5. You've done 6, 7 to 8 examples. Do you need more than one example per leadership? I would say so, yes. I think it's a bit risky going in with just one example per leadership principle, because each leadership principle actually has multiple, what I call facets to it. So, for example, customer obsession has 4 different facets. Bias for action, I think, has 2 different facets. And I've created this learning program in my Amazon Interview With Academy that helps break down what those facets are for each of the leadership principles. However, they all have more than one. And if you only have one example per leadership principle, you run the risk of being asked a question that actually you don't have an example for because you've only focused on one facet of the leadership principle. So I would say go back to your examples and see if you can come up with another one for each of the leadership principles. Generally, the recommendation is that you have 2 different examples for each leadership principle. If Stephanie, you want to kind of try and make sense of what I've just said to you, definitely stay until the end, because I'm going to give you a freebie in terms of my Customer Obsession Masterclass, and you'll see the 4 facets for the Customer Obsession leadership principle in there. And then suddenly it will make sense to you what I'm talking about when I say each leadership principle has multiple facets. Okay, moving on then. Hey, Dustin. So you met your HM already. Are you likely to see them again at Loop? Yes, you are very likely to see your hiring manager again at Loop, because that's where the final decision is made as to whether to hire you or not. And considering that the person will be your line manager, they would definitely benefit from being present in that discussion. So I would say in 95% of cases, candidates will meet their manager again at Loop. There are some exceptions to this. There are some roles that are so cookie cutter. Brand manager roles tend to be things like that, where any manager in the overall kind of business unit could make as good a decision as any other manager. So sometimes the exact hiring manager isn't there and a decision is made by managers. Sometimes, people are sick, parental leave, all of those types of things come up. And for those reasons, your manager may not be present at Loop, but 95% of cases, you will see your hiring manager again at Loop. Oh, a man from South 128, you are waiting for your L7 results. Ooh, good luck. Okay, so here is the moment where I'm going to take a brief pause and say, you all know I work very hard to put really good quality content out on this channel. And trust me, it takes a lot of effort to script, record, edit, all of that for YouTube. In return, I would like to ask you a favor, please. In order for my content to surface in YouTube, it needs positive engagement signals. Those engagement signals are either if you like a piece of content or if you put a comment in the comments beneath it. So whenever you're watching any of my content, please just take a millisecond just to click the like button or drop me a note, drop me a question, hi Gigi, whatever it is. Because if those signals go into the YouTube algorithm, it surfaces my content over some of the other complete tosh that somehow appears before me in the algorithm, and more people like you get to benefit from my expertise. So for now, I'm going to ask you to very briefly do what I've just asked you for this particular stream. So just go and give it a little thumbs up. And whilst you do that, I'm going to play a very silly video because, hey, it just amuses me. Here we go. So please go do it now. Like the stream. 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 Okay, whoops, I accidentally played the Christmas one and it's very long. So I'm not going to make you watch all of that. So hopefully you have all gone and given it the thumbs up. Those of you who are watching on playback, please give it the thumbs up. And if you have, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you have not given me the thumbs up, come on, be nice, be nice. All right, so let's move on and see where we are. I'm conscious of time. There's a lot of questions here, So I'm not sure I'm going to make my way through all of them. I'm going to try and pick people who I haven't yet picked. If you really are desperate to get me to answer your question, you can use the super chat function on this, which means you pay a little amount of money and you can prioritize your question. What I will say is if anyone does use super chat today, I will donate those funds to the humanitarian causes and charities that are supporting our friends in the Ukraine. So that's what I'll do with that money. So if you do want to get me to see your question and you put money into super chat, I will be passing it on to charity. I will not be using it myself. Okay, so moving on. Okay, sorry, I'm back in the room now, Yeah. So, hey, Amand. So there are a few people examples that can't be quantified by numbers, such as dealing with a person who's not cooperating. How do you quantify results for this? You don't bother. As you absolutely say, there are some questions that just don't need metrics against them. Now, sometimes you can make a tenuous connection with metrics. So, for example, if you were working on a big project, and the project was supposed to deliver a certain goal, and somebody was an important facilitator of moving forward on the project, and they were getting in your way, and you needed to get their cooperation. You could tell the narrative about how you got their cooperation, and then when you talk to results, you effectively say, right, got them on board. Project went on to deliver on time and hit our goals of 20 million, whatever the goal was, and it completely turned around our relationship. So you can put in metrics, but they're tenuously connected metrics. They aren't metrics, they're effectively the impact of the example that you were taking everybody through. But that's fine. Okay. Okay. I'm going to try and skip and I'm going to skip a few people. I'm really sorry, so that I can get to some new people, and then I'll come back if I get to the end. Okay, yeah. So Fabio, hello from Brazil. You have your loop tomorrow. Your job position is based in Brazil. Your interview will be hosted by people in the US. Do they take your English into account? Yes, to a certain degree. So you have to be able to converse and make yourself understood in English. It is the universal language of Amazon. If you can do that, then that's fine. Your interviewers literally just need to be able to understand you. If in order to have a conversation, you have to use Google Translate, which has happened to me before, that person did not make it into Amazon, that's a problem. But if you are able to conduct a coherent conversation and be understood and understand your interviewers in English, that is sufficient. There is no scoring for the quality of your English. You simply need to be understood and to understand. I hope that helps. I am definitely now on the verge of passing out from the smell of glue in this room. Oh, I don't like that at all. I hate that. I hate the kind of the feeling of being fuzzy in the head. I kind of went for no drugs whatsoever. You don't need to know this, actually. I was about to tell you about my childbirth, but you don't need to know that, right? I don't need to know that. I think I lost about 10 viewers at that point. Okay. Sorry, people. Sorry. I am back here and I'm focused and I'm serious. Right. Let me see what other questions we've got. Okay. Okay. So I think I've understood this. Pankaj. Yes. Okay. For LPs, each interviewer is assigned 2 LPs, normally 2, sometimes 3, but not often. And they pick 2 questions each from the AIQB, not necessarily 2 questions. And this is my point about just how variable the process is. Can my 2 LP on-site rounds have the same LP? No. Right. So here's how it's supposed to work. Your interviewers are supposed to be assigned 2 LPs each, sometimes 3, but mainly 2. From that, they have to ask you a number of questions. Those questions don't exclusively have to come from the AIQB. They can make them up themselves. Benchmark for that I was taught as a bar raiser was to goal seek 3 questions, because 3 questions allowed you to get a good spectrum of answers. But that doesn't mean to say that everybody is goal seeking 3 questions. If you are in a more junior role, you're going to end up with more questions than 3 because your examples aren't going to be very complex. If you're in a more senior role and you have a very complex example, you may end up only having enough time to ask 2. Some interviewers have a goal. I mean, I heard someone on an L6 loop the other day who the interviewer told them they wanted to ask them 6 questions, which just seems insane to me at an L6 level, because you just can't get to the scope and the complexity that you need to in an hour asking 6 questions. But hey ho, that would be my feedback to them as their bar raiser. So the point is, they should have unique leadership principles and be asking questions that are unique to those leadership principles. They won't have matching leadership principles, but what can happen is, number one, there are some similar questions for different leadership principles in the AIQB. are right a lot and bias for action have some kind of overlap sometimes, or at least depending on the articulation. If you're not precise, they sound the same. There are questions in earn trust and have backbone, disagree, and commit that, again, if you're not very careful with the articulation of them, sound the same. But broadly speaking, you shouldn't get overlap in questions, and you most certainly shouldn't get overlap in leadership principles. But exactly how many questions they will choose to ask you is completely variable on both how long your examples are and what that particular interviewer is goal seeking. As I said, best practice I was taught was 3, but there is no kind of firm guidelines that says you must ask X number of questions. That doesn't exist. I hope that helps. Okay, what else do we have? Hey, Brett. So your loop is tomorrow. You asked your recruiter who your hiring manager was and who the bar raiser was, but they ignored your question. No worries, right? So I don't think you should worry about who the bar raiser is. Knowing who the bar raiser is offers you no advantage whatsoever. So chill out about that. I wouldn't say the same about the hiring manager. I would want to know who the hiring manager was on my loop, because there are certain questions that I would want to ask the hiring manager that nobody else on that loop could answer for me. So if I were you, I would literally ask my interviewers, I have not been told who the hiring manager is for this role. Is it you? And they'll say yes, they'll say no. But I always have a set of questions that are unique for the hiring manager. So if I were you, I'd have that set of questions ready and then ask them directly, your interviewer directly, who the hiring manager is. Okay, so, oh, hello, Mr. Cat's Universe. Hi, Amazon. I don't work for Amazon, so not sure what that's about. Moving on. Okay. Okay. So Alex, so from California, nice. Is it true after being in the industry for 3 or 4 years, you can't give examples from when you were at college? 3 to 4 years is a bit borderline, I would say. So maybe okay, 1, I suppose, if I was your bar raiser, I'd be like, yeah, 1 example out of all of them that predates their professional career wouldn't worry me too much. But if you started giving the majority of your examples from predating your career history and you've got 3 or 4 years behind you, I'd be a little bit worried about what you've been up to over the past 3 or 4 years. Hope that helps. Okie dokie, moving on then. Okay. Hey, awesome, Patel. So you could interview in less than 4 hours. You've done a ton of prep. You feel like it's not enough, and you've already got shot down twice. Now, previously thought someone asking, do you got 4 hours? What are you going to do in 4 hours? Let's be honest. Just, you've done all your prep. You know you've done your prep. Relax, right? Maybe you'll get through. Maybe you won't. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. You can come back another time. I know you've said you've already gotten shot twice, but plenty of people make it into Amazon on the 3rd, the 4th, even the 5th time. I've heard some people. So you got 4 hours left. Relax. That's the best advice I can give you. If you freak yourself out, you'll just end up shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. Don't I know it, Jim? Don't I know it? They should pay me for improving the candidate experience and improving the efficiency of employee acquisition. I know. I don't think they feel the same way. In fact, I'm pretty confident they don't feel the same way about me, at least not at senior management level. But hey, I've got loads of contacts that are Amazon recruiters. Lots of Amazon recruiters refer their candidates to me to their candidates. I'm not sure which way around that goes, but they're a good old bunch. So there's a lot of good support for me with the recruiters, and in return, I try and support them. But yeah, wouldn't that be nice if they paid me? Oh dear. Right, moving on then. Oh, Day. Simple answer to this, no, absolutely not. So you had a phone screen for an exec assistant, it got cancelled. They promised to find you a role. Should you rely on them? No, absolutely not. You can never rely on anybody but yourself. I think I've said this 3 times now, so I'll just say it one more time. You have to own your own process. Nobody wants you to get a job as much as you want you to get a job. So don't rely on anybody else for anything. End of story. Okay. Who is this Mr. Cat S universe? Very bizarre. Honestly, do you not have anything better to do with your time? Seriously. Okay, moving on then. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Starlight UK. Up the Brits. Woohoo! Okay. So you are very welcome for my content. I am delighted it's got you through phone screens. You're waiting for Loop, but you've noticed the role is still being advertised. Should you be worried? Not at all. The Amazon interview process is a conveyor belt, literally a conveyor belt, with different people being at different stages at any one point in time. So Starlight UK, it is very possible that they are currently looping other people for your role. You will be going to Loop shortly. They will also be probably doing phone screen 2s for other people on the conveyor belt behind you. They'll be doing phone screen 1s on the conveyor belt behind them. They'll be reviewing resumes for people behind the phone screen 1 people on the conveyor belt. It is simply a never-ending conveyor belt until they find someone who raises the bar. And as soon as they find someone who raises the bar and who accepts their offer, the role is filled and everybody has to jump off the conveyor belt and go and find another conveyor belt. Hope that helps. Good luck. Oh, Shallini. Oh, Shallini. Thank you for joining. So everybody, this is Shallini. Shallini joined lots of my sessions for quite some time. Bit of a journey for you, wasn't it, Shallini, in terms of your interview experience? But finally, day 1, your first day 1, because you're going to have many, many day 1s in your Amazon career, and you are absolutely welcome. And I'm delighted that you are in the Amazon family. And tell everyone about me. Keep telling the world that Gigi is here to help. Congratulations. I am thrilled for you. And make sure you grab yourself stickers, right? That was my favorite thing about, I'm going to say favorite thing about working at Amazon, but one of the fun things that Amazon does is they stick stickers on their laptops. And at the end of your Amazon career, your collection of stickers is a bit like it's like the medals that people get. So get some stickers, man. Get them on that laptop so you don't look like a virgin. Like a virgin. Ooh. All right. Yeah, definitely high on the glue. Right. So what's the time? Almost time's up today, but let's keep going because we've still got oh my God, I got loads of questions still to go. All right. I'm getting a little bit rumbly in my tumbly here. So I'm not sure how much longer I can go on for, but I will try and keep going for a few more. Again, if you really want to make sure that I answer your question, you can use the super chat function where you pay a little bit amount and it surfaces your question to me and I make sure I address it. And as I said a minute ago, if you do that, if you do that, I will donate any of those funds to some humanitarian charities supporting people in the Ukraine. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good question. To get a yes, does every interviewer need to give the green light or it comes down to the BR and the HM? Yeah, essentially it comes down to the bar raiser and the hiring manager. It's not all that often that you get a 100% inclined loop. It happens. It's lovely when it happens. Oh, it's so easy. But it's not often. So more often than not, it's always a bit of a split loop. And at the end of the day, it's the hiring manager and the bar raiser that make the decision. Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm going to do some jumping. Yeah. Pankaj does the phone screen for a TAM role. It doesn't really matter, but technical account manager. Feedback carry weight towards the end result along with the on-site loop, or is it just pass or fail? Yeah, each step is just to get you to the next step. So So on some occasions when you're at Loop and there is some doubt over a particular leadership principle, what the bar raiser or the interviewers will do is reflect back on the notes that they saw from the earlier rounds to see if they can find some mitigating data to support or counter the concerns that they have at Loop. So in that respect, sometimes that data gets called on again, but mainly it's really just a one and done. You're through that stage and you're on to the next one. Hope that helps. Moving on then. Mustafa, hello. So am I having a good day? Well, I did have a good morning because I woke up this morning and I have to tell you, I felt rotten. I felt terrible. So do you know what I did? I sent my kids off to school and I went back to bed. I didn't get out of bed until 10 o'clock. It was wonderful. So how can anybody complain a day where they managed to stay in bed until 10 o'clock? Right. So you wanted to ask about internal transfers. How difficult is it to move from Europe office to the US office? So I'm not quite sure on how you want me to define difficulty. So I'm going to talk in more broad terms, which is, broadly speaking, you're as likely to get hired from Europe to Seattle as you are in Seattle. Visas and all of those things allowing, particularly if you're a citizen of a country that isn't a European country and you manage to get into a European role through a visa, that gets a bit more complicated. But broadly speaking, once you're inside Amazon, it's pretty easy to move between different geographic locations if you are considered the candidate that they want for that role. But obviously, no one's going to be a fan of you if you join a role in Europe and then 6 months later try and move to the US, because that will just look really bad on your kind of track record, because clearly you were not serious about the role that you applied for and no one's a fan of that individual. But if you're in a role for a year, 2 years, and then you decide you'd quite like to make a move to the US, then yes, that is very, very feasible. A huge number of my colleagues in London both came from other countries and went to work in other countries. Okay, moving on then. Oh, Alex, you're welcome. I like the thank you. Or it does kind of sound like you're falling off the edge of a cliff there. I hope you're not. Okay, so moving on then. Oh, Jonny. Oh, fantastic. So you got in. You watched all of my videos. Oh my God, that is just too much, Gigi. I don't think I don't think I'd inflict that on anybody. And you got your offer confirmed. Congratulations, Jonny. I am delighted for you. And I'm well impressed that you managed to make your way through that many hours of Gigi's face. Even I think I'd want to slap myself in the face if I had to watch myself that much. Congratulations. I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic career. And thank you very much for coming on and saying hi. It thrills me. It makes me very, very happy when I can see that I'm having a positive impact on people's lives. So bless you. Thank you for taking the time. Okay. Right. Dustin again. All right, Dustin. So you've been told you're headed for Loop, but you haven't been scheduled. What are my thoughts? Follow up. As I've said a few times already in this, own your own process. So yep, follow up. Be polite, but just say, still keen to go through the process. Any updates on when my Loop might be scheduled? Okay. What else do we have? Okay, Matthew, I'll do this one quickly. So you're applying for a process for a location in Texas. Should you be applying for the same role in other locations, will all my apologies go to the same recruiter who's assigned to me? I think you mean applications, not apologies. No, it's not one recruiter to a person. Recruiters fill roles. So if your recruiter is filling multiple roles and you apply for those multiples, it's all covered by that recruiter. If the roles that you're interested in are in different teams, in different units, in different parts of the country, and different countries of the world, there'll be different recruiters. So you can apply for as many roles as you like, Matthew. My suggestion would be, if you're going to apply for multiple roles, make sure it's in the same type of job family. So multiple area manager roles, multiple program manager roles, multiple product manager roles, they all make sense. If you start applying for multiple roles that are cross-discipline, recruiters don't take you very seriously because they think you probably aren't very focused in terms of what you want out of Amazon and what your career aspirations are. But no, it will not be the one recruiter. You don't get a recruiter assigned to you. A recruiter is assigned to a role. You then get assigned to a role or multiple roles depending on what you're applying for. Oh, we got another one. Agnes Studio 925. Oh, you are welcome. Congratulations. Please, everybody say congratulations to people who appear and say they have offers. I love calling you up because I think it gives everyone a little bit of hope that this process is definitely worth undertaking and that there are positive outcomes at the end of it. Of course there are. There's 1.3 million Amazon employees. They came from somewhere. Congratulations. Have an amazing career. And I am privileged to have been able to support you in your preparation. Okay. All right. So let's do this one. So Tash Kenty, the Amazon interview process was a painful experience. I'm sorry it was painful. They said you fit the culture, but your experience doesn't fit the role. Okay, so let's just be clear. There are often outcomes where people are told that they are raising the bar on the leadership principles, but the actual role that they've applied for isn't a good fit for them. Now, in some cases, they are actually given what's called kind of a pre-clearance and inclined, and you can go and apply for other roles and you don't have to go through the full loop process. If you apply for other roles, you can do mini loops or you can do simple green light meetings. Other times you are essentially thrown back into the pool and just told you can apply for other roles if you like. There will be different outcomes. So Tash Kenty, if you don't know exactly what the outcome is, i.e. are you a inclined, not inclined recycle, or are you a kind of inclined bar raising candidate that needs to go and find themselves another role and can go through a mini loop? It's important to try and establish that. So please do contact your recruiter back and get absolute clarity on what they say are going to be the next steps for you. Funny question. Rachel, what are my thoughts on the Seattle office versus the Bellevue office? I don't have any thoughts. I've never been to Bellevue. Everyone goes, well, not everyone. Most people globally at more senior leader roles find their way into Seattle at some point, but it's America. I'm in the UK. I've never been to Bellevue. Couldn't tell you. Okay, moving on. Okay, Dustin, you again. All right, let's keep going. All right, there's not that many left, so I can make it through. So you were an employee referral. Is that a foot in the door or more valuable at AWS? No. So let's be clear for everybody what the referral process is, and then I'll answer your question, Dustin. So in Amazon, a referral is where an Amazonian submits your resume on your behalf into the system. What then happens is it's tagged as a referral and it bypasses the recruiter and goes straight to the hiring manager. Now, that's a bit different from the more broad definition of a referral where someone you know, or maybe you've met them on LinkedIn and they just connect you with the hiring manager or they connect you with the recruiter. That isn't a referral in Amazon. An actual referral in Amazon is when someone takes your resume and puts it into the system for you. Okay, so Dustin, what that referral does if someone's put you into the system and made the application for you is bypasses the recruiter and gets you to the hiring manager. That is the limit of the value of a referral in Amazon. The hiring manager does not need to interview you. If they look at your resume and they don't think you're a fit, then they are entirely free to reject you. The only requirement is that they have to review your resume. That's the extent of the advantage of referral. Now, clearly, if your referrer is a real champion of you, it's ideal if you can get them to email the hiring manager on top of putting your resume, into the system and wax lyrical about how fantastic you are and why they should seriously consider you, that's wonderful too. But again, the value of it is only up to the point where the hiring manager considers your resume. After that, it's exactly the same process as everybody else. Okie dokie, moving on. Brett, you got your hiring manager. Cool. Cool. That's good. That's all you need. Don't worry about the bar raiser. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Rachel, does the candidate's answer for expected salary hold weight in the decision-making process? No. You either raise the bar or you don't raise the bar. Now, there will be times where a recruiter has to manage expectations of the hiring manager. So if, for example, a decision has been made that they want to down level you because you aren't raising the bar on the leadership principles for the level that they're recruiting for, but they're willing to de-scope the role and hire you at a more junior level, at that point, the recruiter might say their salary expectations are a bit high for the sub-level, but at which point the bar raiser will say, well, that's your problem. Like, we're going to offer them an L5. You need to talk to them about what the compensation range is for an L5, but it is never a contributing factor to the decision-making process as to whether you're raising the bar or not. Hope that helps. Moving on then. Dustin, you're out of questions now, Dustin. Are you sure? Are you sure? You're sure? You're sure? I don't know what film that's from. Is that a Monty Python thing? Might be. I was happy to answer all your questions, Dustin. Okay, what else do we have? Naveen, what's the difference between a TPM AWS versus Amazon? AWS is Amazon. Let's be clear. Sorry, I find that question a little bit funny. AWS is Amazon. Yeah, there are other businesses that are also Amazon. So the entertainment teams with Audible and Prime Video and IMDb, they are also Amazon. Retail is also Amazon. Amazon Care is also Amazon. All of these other businesses are also Amazon. Just to be clear, what's the difference between TPM? Nothing. It's the TPM. The only difference is the kind of the industry / vertical that you're working in. So no difference, and they're all Amazon. Okay, moving on then. Yep, okay. Gabriella, hello. So you've your loop tomorrow for a product manager. Should you expect only behavioral questions? You've already had a case in your phone interview. Should you also prepare? Tell me about yourself or resume related. Okay, so unless you've been told that there are functional aspects to your interview, I would expect as a product manager, you're now just going to be having behavioral interviews when you're at Loop. Should you also prepare? Tell me about yourself. Yes, only because at Loop, it tends to be a bit of a warm-up question, just to kind of get rid of the weirdness of bizarreness of sitting in front of people, a stranger, and asking the behavioral questions. So yes, you should be prepared for just a couple of warm-up questions, but they don't contribute to the evidence for the decision-making process as to whether you're raising the bar or not when it comes to Loop. And therefore, please spend no more than 1 minute on any of those warm-uppy type questions in Loop, because they're not adding value and you're wasting time that you could spend on answering behavioral questions that do add evidential value to the decision-making process. I hope that helps. Oh, Alan, fingers crossed, Alan. I hope it goes well for you. Again, someone else who's obviously had their fill of GG, but I'm glad it was helpful for you. So I'm sure we'll all have our fingers crossed. Moving on then. Ooh, any more questions? Yeah, okay, good one, Alan. So I have to do a video about this, and I owe one of my colleagues an email. So thank you for reminding me. I'm now feeling guilty about having not done what I said I would do with her. So what typically happens when the negotiations about compensation? Does the recruiter talk with the hiring manager to raise or match other offers? Okay, so in Amazon, the hiring manager has very little involvement whatsoever in the decision on how much to pay a candidate. Oh my God. I know it's very, very different to most other interview processes. Hiring manager doesn't get a say. So what happens is essentially you negotiate with the recruiter negotiates with the compensation analyst. There's a whole team in comp and benefits, that's what they're called, and they are a compensation analyst. The compensation analyst takes all of the inputs from the recruiter, any particular data points that they want to give you from, they want to give the comp analyst from the outcome of a loop, i.e. if it was a fully inclined loop, things like that are helpful data points. The compensation analyst then comes up with a comp package, gives it to the recruiter. Sometimes the recruiter will share it with the hiring manager just because they want to make sure that the hiring manager thinks it's fair and reasonable. More often than not, the hiring manager never sees it and it goes through to the candidate. Again, sometimes the hiring manager needs to see it because it's slightly out of whack with everybody else in their team. So that's kind of a point of discussion. But broadly speaking, the dialogue goes between candidate, recruiter, comp analyst, recruiter, candidate, recruiter, comp analyst, recruiter, candidate, until hopefully you have reached a point where you are in agreement. I hope that helps. Right. So what do we have here? Oh, Agnes, you've done a super sticker for 20 pounds, Agnes Studio. Thank you, Agnes. I will be donating that 20 pounds to some humanitarian causes in the Ukraine. So thank you for your generosity on behalf of them. Thank you. Okay, that's very sweet of you, Agnes. I really appreciate that. What else do we have here? Oh, we're 15 minutes over time. Right, how many have I got left? Just a few. Right, so I'm just going to try and jump and find a couple more because I have to tell you, if I do not leave this room soon, I am going to pass out both from hunger and from being high on the glue for these things on the wall. So let's go. La 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 la. Okay, Lakitia. Have I said that right? Lakitia? I'm so sorry if I murdered it. Please apologize to your parents for me. So you had an interviewer decline for the role, but the hiring team wants the recruiter to find you another role at a different level. Okay. How often should you reach out to the recruiter for updates? That's a little bit of a how long is a piece of string type question, Lakitia. It depends on how active or proactive your recruiter is in terms of communicating with you. As I've said to a few people so far, my personal view is you have to own your own process, right? Nobody wants you to get a job as much as you want you to get a job. So my suggestion for you would be to not only keep in touch with your recruiter and, you know, I don't know, like once every couple of weeks, maybe, for speaking to your recruiter, but be proactive in terms of looking for other roles yourself and apply to those roles and let that recruiter know that you've applied to those roles. Own your own process. Okay. I'm going to go for one more and then I'm going to give you a freebie. Do not leave without this freebie. You will regret it if you do. See if there's anything else. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to pick which one to do. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do the prep call one. Again, this is going to be part of a new video that I do that somebody's waiting for some content on from me from. So what to expect on your prep call with your recruiter. Prep call is yours, right? The whole point of the prep call is for the recruiter to impart upon you as much information as they can to help you be successful in that interview. You and your recruiter have exactly the same agenda, and that is for you to get hired. So you plan what you want out of that call. Go in there with a full list of questions of everything that you want to know in preparation for your interview. So don't worry about what the expectation is. You decide what you want to use that preparation call for and go in with that as an agenda. Okay? So great that you've got a prep call. Those are really, really valuable. Okie dokie. So I did say I was going to give you an amazing freebie. And trust me, this really is an amazing freebie. So go to, I never get the right end. It's ridiculous. I've been doing this for so long. This is like my 70th one of these, and I still don't know where to put my damn finger. AmazonInterviewWizAcademy.com. Go there and get my free Customer Obsession Masterclass. It tells you the 4 different facets of customer obsession. I mentioned earlier about facets. It is a learning model that I created for understanding the leadership principles, and it is special and unique, and you won't see it anywhere else, or if you do, it's because they copied me. The 4 different facets of customer obsession, so you can pick the right examples from your career history. It will tell you pretty much exactly what your interviewer is looking for, what they are looking for in your answer. And there is a demo of a mock interview of me interviewing me. It's all very schizophrenic and amusing. And you can see how it all kind of comes together in an interview. So please go and get that, totally free. I give it to you because, of course, I want you to watch it. I want you to love it. I want you to invest in some more of my products. I won't deny that. But equally, I've gone for customer obsession because pretty much all of you, if you interview in the Amazon process end to end, will be asked customer obsession at some point. So if I'm going to give money away, a bit like buying gifts, I would rather buy gifts for people who actually want the gift and will make use of it. So please go get it. Make use of it, enjoy it. I hope it helps. Right, so on that note, I am going to go and get my evening meal. I'm starving. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. Good luck for all of you who have interviews coming up. For those of you who have already secured roles, yay, congratulations. Way too high at this point. If you have further questions and I haven't managed to get to your questions today, of course, I will be back next Monday, or as always, you can drop your questions into YouTube and I will aim to get back to you within 24 odd hours is usually my turnaround time. So please be safe out there. Every day we all wake up to more and more insanity, but be safe, look after yourselves, look after your families. And thank you very much, Agnes Studio 925, for the donation. I will be passing that on to some charities in the Ukraine. And I'd recommend all of you do the same, quite honestly. But hey, that's your gig. Be safe. Thank you very much for joining. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.